Welcome back to Switch to Linux. So we are back with another GIMP tutorial, and we are going to have a quick look at the tools panel. Now, each of the tools could probably have a 5 or more minute video in and of themselves. I'm actually going to keep this video extremely short, just a very brief overview of what all of the tools do, and then we're going to follow this up with just a down the road, just some 2 or 3 minute tutorials on the depths of each one of the available tools. So that's kind of what our goal is here for today. So here we are on GIMP, and what we're going to do here is I'm going to walk you through just the basic tools. So we're going to need, for some of these tools, we're going to need at least one image open, maybe 2. So we're just going to go ahead and start by opening up our image that we've been working with, which is the kitty image. As you guessed, we're not jumping right into the doing the iTunes image yet. There's just too many more things we need to cover before we get into that. So we're going to go ahead and do this here. So let me slide that around just a little bit there. All right. So we have our image here. Of course, if you hold your control key and wiggle your mouse, you can zoom the image in and out to the size that you prefer. So we're just gonna walk through just a very brief summary of what all these tools do. So at the very top, we have a series of selection tools. So these ones up here, the basic selection tools, are pretty basic, in which case you can select a square, select a rectangle. The lasso tool will allow you to go through and do some points. So if you need to highlight, specific pieces of this, maybe just this one cat here, then you just kind of use this selection tool here. And then bring it back in together, and then you'll see that it will give you a selection. So I could copy and I could paste a new layer, which is just this cat here. So I can move the cat around. And so that is the selection tool that you would use for the lassos. Then we also have a fuzzy selection tool, which will select around a range of colors. Now, the cats may not select well, so you'll see there it doesn't quite work quite as well. You can actually adjust the threshold. So all of these tools, check out the options panels. The thresholds will actually allow you to make some degree of connection, how sensitive it is or how non-sensitive it is. I found that this one on GIMP doesn't work quite as well as the one on Photoshop does, but you'll see it will do a good job, especially if you have a lot of contrast. This image doesn't have a lot of contrast, so it doesn't work as much there. And then we have a select by color. So if I select something here, anything in the image, it will select everything that is of a similar color range to it. Okay, and of course, Control A will select all, Control Shift A deselects all. So I'm just holding Control Shift and A, and that will deselect everything. And then we have the scissor tool, which will allow us to select various shapes and whatnot. So it just kind of does this kind of fuzzy around. Now what it's actually trying to do, and this is a bad image to use this one, it's trying to figure out based on the contrast in the image where things are at. The carpet on this image here is kind of what gets in the way. So if I come up here, actually, I might be able to do a better job just selecting this here. So see here, it will actually select the portions, kind of does a better job around the carpeting than that. And then just kind of do one of those. Push enter, and then that will give you your selection. So those are actually all really nice selection tools. Now, all of these selection tools, you'll notice down here with the mode, we have the select, we have the add to selection, which you can get to by doing the shift. So if you hold down the shift, you'll see, if you notice on my cursor, then you'll see that you get a little plus, and then hold down control, you'll get a little minus. And so what that means is that if I hold down the plus, then I can add multiple things to it, holding down the minus means I can take some things off of my selection tool. So that way you can add and adjust some of these selections as you are going along here. All right. So and then the last option here is the intersect, which is the shift and control. So what the intersect is going to do, that you'll see that what it does is it takes what we have in our selection, and then I can select another range, and whatever is selected within the selection that I grab, that is now the new selection. So that's kind of what those individual selection tools do. So keep in mind with those, we have the foreground select tool. What this one allows you to do is it kind of will behave like a lasso. So let me just go ahead and I'm just going to do this one really quick. Just kind of crude, really. So then what you'll see here is we get this this blue overlay. That's just going to allow you to make some adjustments in the colors. Again, some of these tools are we're not really going to go into any detail. We'll do a separate tutorial on each of these that takes a whole lot more effort. Now, again, the difference between raster and vector images, a raster image relies on pixels, vector images relies on angles and calculations. All of your raster-based tools such as GIMP will have some degree of vector capabilities and vice versa. So if you do happen to need something with vectors, you do have the pen tool up here, or the path tool is what it's called. So what the path tool allows you to do is to just drop in paths. And if you're not familiar with how pathing tools work, then this may not seem all that intuitive to you. So I hold Control to link the two together. So now I have the ability to adjust my paths and whatnot here. Again, we're not going to cover a lot about what paths are in this one here, just to let you know that it does exist. Just going to go ahead and undo all those, get rid of those. And then here is your color picker tool. This will just adjust your color. So it will adjust your foreground color over here as your foreground color indicator. It will adjust your foreground color indicator to whatever you happen to select. So if I want to select just the pink on the nose, I can come up here and collect that, and then that's just the pink on the nose there. Okay, there's the white, some browns, some whites. So that's a pretty straightforward tool. Of course, you can pick only. You can set it as the foreground, you can set it as the background, or you can set it as a palette. Your zoom tool, this will just allow you to zoom in just by selecting a region, and it will automatically zoom to that region. So this is a handy tool if you just want to go ahead and do that. Now again, I should say this, should have said this earlier, but if you just hover over these, you'll actually see what the hotkey is to get to it. So this one here is the Z. So if I want to, for example, move something, I can just push the M and it will automatically select the move tool, Z for the zoom tool. So whatever tools you use the most frequently, you might just figure out, what they are. Okay, so your alignment tool, this one here, you need a few other items on the grid. So I'm going to go ahead and open as layers. I'm just going to add a few of these GIMP dogs to it. Let's just go ahead. It's GIMP doggy dog. Okay. So now we have a couple of different layers. So what your align to tool is going to do is it's going to allow you to align various elements to each other. So what you want to do is decide what you want to align to, and so relative to the first item. So you see the first item is clicked. Now what I'm going to do is hold the Shift key and then click the other items that I would like aligned. So notice I'm aligning the 3 dogs, but I'm not aligning anything in the background image. And then what you can do is select which one of these you want to assign. So we want to align everything to the center of the target, which in this case is the first item. So boom, everything is now aligned to the middle. So then you can see here, now they're all stacked on top of each other, and so I would have to move them around in order to get them off again. Let's go ahead and select our move tool and move these guys around. So the other things you can do is you can align to an image, you can align to a selection, an active layer, active channel. So again, though, you gotta just hold down your Shift key. This is now our first item, is the first one we click, and then just grab the other guys there. And then you can align everything down to the sizes that we have. Okay. Of course, I think you actually... Whoa. I gotta put my dogs back on there. All right. I think you actually have to start with the first one being selected. It looked like when I selected this one as the first item, they actually did not want to move to that. So let me go ahead and do that again. There you go. So yeah, it looks like the first one selected should be your active layer. So make sure you're doing that. All right. Delete and delete layer and delete layer. All right. So the next tool is our crop tool. So this will remove areas from the image. So your crop tool here will allow you to just kind of come over here and just kind of, I hotkeyed it too fast. Select the areas that you'd like to crop to. So you can just kind of do this. Again, the one tool I've not found that I use a lot on Photoshop that I've not found here is the ability to crop while adjusting the image size. And like I said, I use a series of, first I do the image size and then I use the canvas crop, usually what I do. But this guy here will allow you to, it sets your position, which is your top panel here. So if I adjust this guy, it'll actually move the image back and forth. And then your size is here. But again, what this does not do is it will not, at least I've not found a way yet to do it, is it will not crop this out while setting it at a larger size. But this is a nice tool there. So once you have everything where you want it, just click it and it will go ahead and crop the image down. So these next couple tools here in a row, these guys here, the rotate, scale, shear, perspective, and flip tool. What these guys are going to do is they will allow you to do exactly what they're saying. Rotate things. We're going to go ahead and add another GIMP dog to this to do this one. I don't want to mess with the image here. So the first one here is the rotate. So with the rotate tool selected, click on the part you want to rotate, and you can actually set the angles over here. So you can do the angle set over here, or you can actually just come to the image and just drag it around once it's set. So then you can go ahead and set how you'd like it to go, click the rotate, and then you'll see it will rotate. Okay, the scale will allow you to scale up and down. Now on this one here, if you want to maintain the perspective, hold the control key and it will maintain the image perspective. So what you'll notice there up in the dialog box near the top is if you uncheck this control key, you'll see that the chain is unlinked. Hold the control key and it will link the chain. So that way I can scale it up and scale it down. We also have the shear tool. So what we're going to do here is allow you to adjust, like basically it's parallelograms it, you know. That's kind of what shearing does. Just I can basically just takes a grid and just keeps all of the angles the same while it's moving, basically moving everything in one individual perspective. And I believe we should have a distort somewhere too. Maybe there's not a distort. Oh wait, flip tool. Well, we'll cross that one when we get to it. All right, so this one here will, okay, yeah, this is closer to the distort. Photoshop does have a little bit better ability to distort by grid per grid point, which I can't remember if this one has it or not. I've never actually had to look for it. But you can see there what we're doing here. With this, we can do a lot of interesting rotations and whatnot. So there's what that tool does. And then our flip tool, we'll simply just click it and it'll flip it. And you can come down to the tool options. You can just adjust this vertical or horizontal like this. Now the cage transform tool is actually broken in this version of GIMP. It is a well-known bug, but basically what you do is you would select some areas. The problem is and I'm not sure if it's the specific version of GIMP or the specific version of GIMP on an Ubuntu specific platform, which Linux Mint is a Ubuntu type platform. But it will basically, it freezes at that last step and will not allow you to use it. So we're going to go ahead and not use that one. So the text tool allows you to come in here and create text. So if you just click the grid, you can enter your text. And then with your text being entered, you can come in and highlight it. I think I actually accidentally sheared it. Oh, no, it's still there. So I want to change the color so I can actually read it. All right, and then of course you can adjust the size. So what you'll see here is that it will cut my T off there. What you'll be able to do here is just by clicking on the grid, when you enter the text, you can fill in the text or whatever size, and it will auto scale the size of the grid to the size that you want. Now, if you grab the text tool and you drag, it will keep the text aligned to this grid size. Okay, so now if let's change the color to something I can read. Let's go with blue in case anybody's colorblind out there. Now what you'll see is I adjust the size. Eventually you'll see it will bleed down, and then what I could get is this problem where some of the text is outside the bound of the box, which case I can just grab the corners of the bounding box and just drag things around. That should work. Not sure why that didn't. I always use that option. Okay, because I had the wrong box selected. That's easy with the text tool to accidentally create another box when you meant to adjust the one you had. So you can see here that I can adjust the bounding of the box manually like this. So again, if you click it, it will automatically adjust the bounding of the box to the size, shape, dimension, and whatnot of the text. If you drag and drop it, it will bound the text to that size of the box. Both of those are very good, legitimate things that you might want to do with text. Of course, the paint bucket will allow you to just simply drop either colors or patterns. So I could do a pattern fill here. So the patterns down here on the right side of the screen, you'll see you have brushes, which we'll get to in a minute, patterns and gradients. So we do have a gradient tool here, which is similar to the bucket. So what this is going to do is whatever layer I happen to be on, I can go ahead and drop whatever we have selected into this. I could also and it is gonna go with the color size. And if you do grab something, like if you select something, then it will only color within the bounds of that selection. So you'll see here that I can color the nose, but it will not color the part that's outside of the selection. Go ahead and undo as much of that as I can. Okay, so in this bucket, we can do a foreground fill, a background fill, or a pattern fill. And then your patterns are over here on the right. You can see we have a variety of patterns, and it is possible to add and create your own patterns. So I can come down here, and let's say I want to just grab an area here. In fact, let's do this on a new layer. So I'm going to come up here to layers, and I'm going to go ahead and type a new layer. All right. And then with the paint bucket selected, I should just be able to go ahead and drop anything in there corresponding to any pattern. So here you go, leopard print. Oh boy. So you can see that you can do a lot of different patterny stuff like that. You can also go with, like I said, the background and the foreground fill. And then you can either fill the whole selection or the similar colors. Now your gradient tool here, this guy here is going to either fill, basically you grab your direction that you want, and you can either fill background to foreground, foreground to background, or you can grab some of these other palettes that are inside of your tools here. So whatever direction you can go with. And if you hold down the control key, then it will give you some nice locked angles. So like here's just a straight, this one's probably, that one's 45. So maybe, I'm guessing maybe 10 or 15, 20-ish, whatever. So you'll see you'll have the ability to do this. So if you want something as a perfect straight angle, you can hold down the control key for that. Now you have three related tools here, are the pencil tool, the paintbrush tool, and the airbrush tool. These are all essentially like the same tools here. We'll just get rid of this layer. Let's get rid of this layer. This layer, get rid of this layer. Okay, so, and deselect. So what these three tools do, you'll see that as you look at your options here, that the opacities, the sizes, the aspect ratios, everything's are the same. Now the pencil tool, though, creates the hardest of the lines. Let's go ahead and change this to black, I think I'd like to do. So this guy here will give you a hard line. Your paintbrush tool, a little bit softer, and your airbrush tool, a little bit softer, all with the same options. So effectively, they're the same tool. Now you can select what brush you're using by coming over here. Again, you can add your own brushes. So you can pick any of these individual brushes. We have, this is from the clipboard. It's the dog brush, apparently. So here's a star, and then of course you can adjust the size or whatnot. So here, this is with the airbrush, and then this of course is with the pencil. So that's what you can do, is adjusting adjusting the brushes, adjusting the opacities, sizes, and all that over here with your tool panel. Over there to the left there, but you would use each one of these different tools there, depending on, do you want a heavier stroke or do you want a lighter stroke, rather than just messing with the sizes, opacities, and all that. You have three different options, and then in the middle of them, of course, we have the erase tool. Just allows you to erase stuff. Since this is a flat image and this is an image, there's no transparency layer here, let me go ahead and see if I do that. That's going to adjust transparency of everything. Again, if you remember, we can add an alpha channel to this, in which case we can adjust the transparency like that. There we go. Okay, so that's your erase tool. So your calligraphy painting tool, this guy here will allow you to do some kind of like calligraphy type things. And then we have the three different options. We have the circle, the square, the rectangle. So you can basically, it's sort of like adds like a paintbrush with none of the angles you'd get in a calligraphy type pen. Now your clone tools, we have two different clone tools. We have the perspective clone tool, which is quite a bit more difficult to use. And then we have the basic clone tool. So with the clone tools, you can choose an image source or a pattern source. Okay, so with the pattern source, it kind of behaves sort of like a paintbrush. Let's go ahead and get rid of that there. So you'll see here that it's kind of behaves just sort of like a paintbrush if you're using the patterns. Now, if you use the image tool, let me back my brush size down quite a bit. Okay, then what you want to do is hold the, see what we're doing there. Every now and again I get my tools mixed up. There we go. Okay, so now what you're going to do is hold the control and click somewhere on the image. So I went ahead and clicked up here at the top. Now any other place that I click here, it's going to fill in from that image. So you'll see this hard edge because it's kind of run out of the image there at the top of the screen. Okay, but you'll see that you can come down here and kind of re-clone out the whole thing just by clicking on that. And then, of course, we can adjust the brush size or whatever else we want to do. So there's you know, if you want to go ahead and carpetize the cats. In fact, we could. A good use of this tool is to do things like getting rid of, you know, getting rid of things. Oh, let me redo that. So if I wanted to, for example, just reclone here, let me get rid of that selection. I could actually come over here and literally scrub the cat out of the photo. All right, now we also have the healing tool is also kind of aligned to the clone tools as well. What this one will actually do is it will do the clone, but as it does the clone, it will maintain some of the color perspective images of the original. So actually, I could use this and make a ghost cat if I wanted to, I think. So grab that, and here we get rid of the selection. There we go. Kind of matrixy out the cat. The cat's just kind of like fading into a nickel. Anybody see Howard the Duck? Yeah, we're gonna Howard the Duck the cat. You know, it got faded out. You know, so this guy here is how you'd use the clone tool. So there we go. The cat is now fading into obscurity. Now the perspective tool, what this one is going to do. Let me go ahead and close this out. Some point in time, I created another copy of the image there. All right, so your perspective tool, what this is going to do is, first what you need to do is modify the perspective, and then you're going to start by clicking on the image, then you want to drag your bounds around to where you want your perspective to come into. So you're basically making a perspective. So we'll do something kind of crazy so you can sort of see what it does. So that's an interesting perspective. So now we have that. We're going to click down on the perspective clone there, and then we're going to, let me grab a different brush. So what it's doing now is as it's creating the image, it's creating it as a perspective of the size and the dimensions that you did. So it doesn't kind of look very good here, but basically all it's doing is it's creating an image in the perspective of the size and selection that we've done. So it'll kind of shear an image into a clone is what the purpose of that tool is. Now your next one here is your blur and your sharpen tools. So what these will allow you to do is select from blur or sharpen from the menu down on the left. And again, this is the tools option menu. If you check the first tutorial where we talked about setting up our space, then you can actually see how to put this tool option here. I always keep this tool option right under these because it allows me to quickly jump back and forth. But you can do your sizes, your aspect ratios. But what this will do is allow you to blur parts of the image. Pretty good. So you'll blur it out. And then the other thing that you can do is you can bring the dog back from the dead, apparently. You can grab the sharpen tool. Of course, here's your rate. You can make this kind of go up a whole lot more blurry or less blurry, like that. And then your sharpen tool, again, will allow you to sharpen it. Now, notice that sharpening will actually add a lot of pixelization to it. That's pretty hardcore sharpening. Let me drop that back down to, that's not bad. So this guy here, you can just kind of go over here and just sharpen up little pieces of the images there. Just kind of make things a little bit better. And then your smudge tool, this will allow you to just smudge things around. So it's kind of like if you had a canvas with some wet paint, you're just, it's kind of what that one does. And our dodge and burn tool is last. Okay, so what this guy's going to do is it's going to allow you to add some extra exposures, maybe some extra shadows in very select items. So here you can do that if you wanted to highlight, spot out the cat, whatever else, give the cat its own spotlight. could do something like that. So, you know, these are all tools. Obviously, what we just did with all these tools is, you know, nothing you do on a professional level. But where you get good at graphic design is when you start to figure out how to use these tools in minute little things, okay? And I'm going to give you a little example is... back in iOS 7, they got rid of a lot of interesting things that made the iPhone style look good and polished. Mostly they got rid of like the drop shadows on the text and things like that, which is like, well, that's just extra whatever. Why do you need to run that? Well, the reason is because those tiny subtle effects that you have to stare at really hard to see are the things that make an image really look good. So if you drop some basic text over something, it's fine. But if you add such a small hint of a drop shadow, it just looks so much better. And that's kind of the thing that you do with all these tools is you sit here and you try and figure out what are those subtle things, the subtle ways that I can use these tools to figure out the ways to make the images good and stand out. So that is, I think, what we have to say about about GIMP today. So I think what we're going to look at next is maybe start doing a little bit of filter stuff, and then probably in a couple tutorials from now, then we'll start to we'll actually start to work on a real project. And somebody had requested we look at how to create a thumbnail for an iTunes podcast. So I think that that's a great project that we can look at. So with that, thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux, and be sure to have a look at GIMP and let me know in the comments below if there are other things that you would like me to demonstrate. Also, if you'd like to help support the channel, you can find me on Patreon, patreon.com/TomM, or you can use the Amazon links in the description below. Anytime you want to shop on Amazon, you can do that. Doesn't cost you anything more, but it sends a small portion of your sale to help keep us going here at Switch to Linux. So thanks for watching, everybody, and have yourself a wonderful day.